Everybody, my name is Isolix, and you are joining us live for Premier Sim Gaming Leagues in the PlayStation Division for F5. And we're here again after the holiday season for the French Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us live right now. If you are very excited to be back in the commentary booth to kick off the rest of the season. We're almost near the halfway point in the championship, and it is definitely going to be an exciting affair, to say the least, here as we get set to race around the track here at France, which isn't necessarily the most exciting track on the real world of Formula 1, but does offer some very exciting racing here on F1 2020. And of course, with the plethora of talent that we have at our disposal here, it's surely going to be a very exciting one nonetheless. And let's just get set for action in just a few moments' time, ladies and gentlemen. We're just loading up into the lobby right now. And let's see if I can pull. There's my stream pulled up. Oh, okay. And here we are, 18 minutes counting now as we get ready for short qualifying action. XL, Gary, Matt Tebows, Mark CP, Lewis, Plevs, JT Giletto, Dertamo, Ollie Flavel, Captain Conky, Devin, QVR Cortez, VER Jules, Tim Wentic, Brendan Glover, VER Mike K, MMA Slash, and Spaghetti Chips are your drivers that are in this short qualifying session, as we already have a plethora of cars that are coming out from the grid and are getting ready to start their lap. So let's get ready and set for short qualifying. Let's see who we can pick up right now that's currently on track. It looks like VER Jules is the current man out on track at the moment, reserving in the Racing Point car today. We'll see how he can do today here at France. His teammate Tim Wentic now also on his out lap, coming out of the newly redesigned pit lane that was updated during this year's game. Very happy to see that updated pit lane, and we'll see how it bears well for all the drivers today, but I'm not too sure it's going to be too much of a big concern for anybody here as we get set for the first couple of laps that get started here. We do, of course, wish everybody a very happy 2021 as we get ready for the second half of the new year. It has been a very troublesome year, of course, for some, but we will continue to push forward and continue to move on, and 2021 hopefully is going to be a better season for all of us, whether it's on racing or it's in the real world. And we're just waiting to see who's going to be the first car to get out. It looks like one of the Ferraris, actually, who's going to give way to Devin, who might be actually the first car to start a lap. We're going to see here as he's coming through the end of Sector 3. Going to see what he can do in the Haas car. And actually, no, it's still going to be Jules who's going to come across the line to start his first lap, barreling into turn 1, quickly turning for turn 2, making sure to keep within the track limits, coming out of the exit of turn 2, and now barreling down towards this quick chicane. Very easy to overstep and overturn into there. A little bit of a lockup, not too shabby there though, putting back on the power early, and again, not making sure to go too wide here. Cutting as much of the curb as possible, coming into the long DRS straight, and there's that line. When you hit it, you can open up your DRS flap, and you get an increase of about 11 miles per hour as he heads down into the next chicane. And you can cut a lot of that corner, as actually, let's bring up the lap data and the track map. You can see right there, he is still valid on this current lap. We'll bring up the details for the tires fitted. Right now, everybody's on pretty much the soft tire. Brandon Glover and Ollie Flavel have decided to go on to the medium compound tire for their first stint in this qualifying session. Then coming into the third sector, it's a very interesting right-hander right there, that downhill and then uphill right-hander, and a big lockup there. That might cost him some time. He missed the apex on that particular turn. Now coming into the final couple of corners here, the penultimate turn and then the final turn, a very treacherous hairpin. Very hard to get the power stopped on there. As you can see, he locks up the brakes, and here he comes across the line. and it is going to be a 1:27.6 fastest at the moment, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing some faster lap times come across the board as all the drivers are about to finish the rest of their laps. Let's see if Devin, there he comes, and Devin will go fastest with a 1:27.4, already beating him. XL Gary's about to come across the line. Tim Wentic with a 1:28.0. You definitely going to want to improve on that one. XL Gary comes across the line, only third fastest, ahead of Tim Wentic, splits to 2 racing points, but about 0.2 of a second slower than VER Jules. Spaghetti Chips going 4th fastest. Tim Wentic quickly dropping down the order as Mark C goes 5th fastest. Let's ride on board of Lewis. He has an invalidated lap. He'll go around again. Captain Cocky 7th fastest, a little bit slower, actually quite a bit slower, about 0.5 of a second slower than Tim Wentic, so he's going to want to improve his pace on that particular lap. And let's ride on board now with Dertamo, and we'll see how he can handle this final turn as he comes across the line, and it is going to be best for third fastest for Dertamo, and that was a pretty stellar lap from him. He'll be quite happy with that one. So the times are coming across the board, ladies and gentlemen. Here comes JT Giletto. He's going to go 4th fastest for the AlphaTauri team. AlphaTauri coming into this new part of the season after the holiday break, of course, scoring their first points in Belgium. They'll be looking to score more, as it's not been the best season as a constructor, if I may say so myself, considering the performances they've had and the qualifying positions they have. Let's remember very promptly that Lewis in the top 3 in Australia, the first round of that, as he cuts a major part of the tractor, JT Giletto, and he crashed, unfortunately, in that race, and that caused him to drop way down the too happy about himself after that. Let's look at the Constructors' Championship right now. It is BRT, Matthias, and MMA Slash who lead the Constructors' Championship for Renault. Racing Point in second, with Tim Lentzig, of course, and Michelizzi, who is not here in this race. And then Haas, actually, in third position. Mercedes in fourth. Red Bull of Dertamo and Captain Cocky moved down to fifth. Even after Dertamo doing very well in the Driver Championship, Captain Cocky has just not been able to keep up the same type of pace that you're seeing out of his teammate. And actually, let's move over to the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Driver standings puts VER Mike K in the Mercedes in first position in this Drivers' Championship. MMA Slash in second position. Little Romanino is in third position. Now, if you notice correctly, Little Romanino is not in this race, so that's going to be pretty detrimental. Sorry, Little Romanino actually promoted up to F4. My apologies, I do remember that. So Little Romanino was promoted, so it actually puts Dertamo up in the third spot technically. Once he'll pass him in points, and Dertamo certainly will. Tim Wentic in fifth position at the moment, net fourth, as long as he can score some points today. And BRT Matthias in sixth position, net fifth if he can score some points. VR Gilles, a reserve driver, still without some points in this championship. We'll see what he can do. And actually, let's ride on board of Gilles again, because he's about to be starting another lap here in the third sector. See if anybody's on a current lap. VR Mike K is on a lap. He has not set a time currently yet in this session, as he's just exiting the first sector there. It's not a blazing first sector of fastness. I'm saying some very interesting lines here, just trying to spit all the words out here in France, as it is starting to get a little cloudy here in the birthplace of motorsport. Are we going to be expecting some rainfall near the end of this qualifying session? Might put an end to qualifying for many of our drivers here. They're going to want to get some laps out rather quickly if it does in fact begin to rain, because even the slightest bit of rain can pretty much throw out any possibility of setting a faster lap time than Devin currently does have with a 1:27.4. VR Mike K was not fastest in the second sector either, so not a particularly blazing lap right now from the Mercedes driver. Captain Cocky is ahead of him, and it doesn't look like he's going to hold him up too much, but in fact he might give him some slipstream down the start-finish line. Coming across the line now here is VR Mike K, championship leader, and he is going to come in 6th in the leaderboard at the moment in qualifying, ahead of his teammate, but not particularly as high up as he probably would like to be, leading the championship with 32 points ahead of MMA Slash with 26 points. MMA Slash does not have a time yet on the board, but he soon will, as he is coming into, well, the second sector. We're not going to ride on board of him because his engine is having a seizure right now, as he's about to come into that quick chicane here in Sector 2, cutting as much of the curb as possible, and maybe could have cut it a little bit more on that particular occasion. And actually, we're just going to not ride on board at all with him because it's pretty painful to listen to that engine sputtering. Brendan Glover now coming into the chicane, back on the power, and VER Jules has gone fastest, 127.3. Racing Point driver putting in the power right now for himself. And then Lewis in the AlphaTauri is going to go second fastest, 127.4. And that's just a thousandth of a second actually faster than Devin's time. VR Jules almost a clear couple hundredths of a second faster, though, than those two drivers. You're starting to get into the nitty-gritty here. MMA Slash going 4th fastest. XL Gary is 5th fastest at the moment. So the times are starting to fly here. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. And here comes Dertamo, of course. He's looking to score some good points here today. He's going to only go 5th fastest. So the Red Bull driver, who has been over the past... Oh, and I'm starting... Yep, that's in fact rain. So rain has started to come down here in qualifying, and that may spell the end for qualifying here today for pretty much everybody, because the rain has started to come down here in France. The times you see now may be the times pretty much that close this off. And if you're Plebs and Cortez, who do not have times yet, you're pretty much stuck. And in fact, we're hearing some engines starting to roar, but if it's any of these drivers, then good luck, to say the least. Jules is going to go into the pit lane, and like many of drivers, I expect they may retire from the session and just call it a day. And that is the last thing they would have liked in this session. If you wanted to get faster, there goes MMA Slash. He could only manage 4 fastest as his engine revs at maximum RPM inside the pit lane. We do have one driver still on the soft tires, but he has since invalidated that particular lap, so he is not going to be going any faster. VR Mike K, only 9th fastest. In fact, was out-qualified by his teammate. Again, as the rain starts to come down, it's the little slips and slides in these laps that really are going to affect the drivers here and possibly prevent them from going any faster. We're going to see if any drivers have decided to at least adventure out on the intermediate tires here in qualifying, just to get a little bit of a feel. QBR Cortez has actually come out of the pit lane, but it is starting to rain rather progressively harder here in qualifying, so I don't know if this is going to necessarily net anything well for Cortez. He's thinking at least he can go faster than Captain Cocky as long as it stays in this middle-of-the-road territory here in terms of the conditions. It's a rather mixy situation with the rain, but of course the track's still very much dry. We'll see what he can do as QVR Cortez comes across the line in the Alfa Romeo, and we'll see how he can do in qualifying. Can he go just a little bit faster? Currently sitting last in 17th position with about 5 minutes left to go in the session. Most drivers are in the pit lane. XL Gary is on an outlap. VR Mike K on an outlap again. So Mike K thinks he can go a little bit faster than 9th position despite the rain, as he flies in the turn 1 and then coming up in the turn 2, keeping it within track limits just about, as he's now coming towards, again, is very easy to misjudge chicane. You go too deep, and he did go a little bit too deep. Snaps it back to the left-hand side of the track before coming to the right, and he is down by about 0.3 of a second. And you can see the car is really not enjoying his current conditions, and that was not exactly the best first sector for him as he would have liked to have had. But again, the rainfall coming down is going to just exacerbate any mistakes that any drivers make, which is why you will expect a lot of drivers to be retiring from the session. Tortamo, in fact, is the first driver to do that. He realizes there isn't much in it. VER Mike K now down by a second, and this lap is pretty much kaputs. So for most drivers, it is going to be the end for them for qualifying. QVR Cortez does not even set a valid lap time, though if he did set a valid lap time, it would be slower than Captain Cocky, and it's almost a 1 minute 30, and that will pretty much spell the end here for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. With 3.5 minutes left to go, the rain has began to come down, and it has put an end to any further running in this session if you want to set a faster lap. Now, if you want to go on the intermediates like Gilles is, then go right ahead. Have some practice in the rain. Does that mean, are we getting a rainy French Grand Prix? Ooh, a whole bunch of drivers now retiring from the session. Are we getting a rainy race? We'll have to wait and see here, ladies and gentlemen, because we may be getting that. If Gilles is going out on the intermediate tires, then I could only assume he's doing that because he would want to prepare for his first time out. We'll see if it works out for him. And I was just making sure my audio is working, which I haven't actually known if it was the entire time I've been doing this, which is not good to say the least. As the rain continues to come down here, it is getting progressively worse in this current session, so I expect XL Gary and VER Gilles to retire out of the session. Not too sure what MMA Slash is doing on that soft tire. I don't really understand. In fact, he almost said, ooh. It's lucky it's not a race time because he would have been well and out of this session. And there goes Gilles into the pit lane. And I'm sure he's going to call it a day himself. With about 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go in the session. If you are Plebs and Cortez, and more importantly McLaren and Alfa Romeo, then you are not happy with how that session went. Matt Tebow's just sitting outside of the top 10. Plebs all the way down near the bottom in 16th. Cortez down in the bottom in 17th. Spaghetti chips behind Matt Tebow's. So that was it for qualifying here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hoping this Gilles can just retire out of the session and we can get a move on, or are we going to wait the entire 1 minute that's left here in qualifying? I'm hoping it's not the latter. It might be the latter. And Gilles finally does retire, and we can move on with the session. And it is VER Gilles who goes on pole position. Lewis in second, Devin in third, fourth for MMA Slash, Dertamo in fifth, sixth for XL Gary, Mark C in seventh, eighth for JT Giletto, and ninth for Mike K. Brandon Glover rounding off the top 10, Matt Tebos in 11th, 12th for Spaghetti Chips, Ollie Flavel in 13th, 14th for Tim Wentig, Captain Cocky in 15th, 16th for Plebs, and QVR Cortez in 17th position. And that is the end here for qualifying here, ladies and gentlemen, and let's move on to the race. More importantly, do we have a rainy race here in qualifying? And nope, it is absolutely sunny skies. So that intermediate run was simply just an intermediate run. So we are in completely sunny skies here in France. Let's get set for this 50% race around in this track. We'll see what we can get done here today. It's going to be a good one, I am sure. And there we go. Session start time in 15 seconds and counting as Jules is ready, Mike K is ready, and the rest will get ready in just a moment's time. It is PSGL. It is the PlayStation division. It is F5, and it is the French Grand Prix. So let's get set for the formation lap here, ladies and gentlemen. And there is that singular red light that comes on. And no, it's going to be all 5 red lights. There's no formation lap, and the lights are out, and away we go. And Jules gets away very well, and that was a very peculiar one. Devin has got a good jump on Jules, and coming in the turn 1, it's going to be Lewis. Lewis, who goes around the outside in the turn 1, and he is going to lead this French Grand Prix. Now Jules is going to try to challenge again. He goes onto the inside line, coming into the third turn there, and it's now going to be Jules who slots back behind. He's going to put back on the power again, trying to go around the outside. Devin slots in behind in Jules, and that was a very peculiar start there. No formation lap, and I'm assuming that was a mistake on the part of MMA Slash who set up the lobby, but nonetheless. And XL Gary is out of this race. He has crashed at the beginning of this one, and there he is, his carcass on the DRS line, and this race is under safety car, and we can slow up just a little minute there. I normally go over the qualifying grid order on the formation lap, but there is no such thing on this particular race. We are under safety car, lap 1 of 27, and that was a crazy start. Lewis leads this race. VR Jules in second. Devin in third. MMA Slash in fourth. VR Mike K up into fifth. JT Giletto in sixth. Dertamo in seventh. Ollie Flavel in eighth. Ninth for Tim Wentic. Matt Tebos moves up into the top 10. XL Gary is out of this race. Brandon Glover also all the way at the back of the grid. He's got some wing damage. He's going to have to pit for a wing replacement there as he flies into the pits. A few drivers are making pit stops right now as they may have some damage. But it is safety car conditions here. I don't suspect it will last too long, as most of the grid, of course, was still very much packed up. It was only the start of the race. And there is the safety car, and they will lead away. Lewis. Okay, I do not know why my phone just randomly started playing music. I apologize. I was just charging it, nothing was happening, and it just randomly started playing music. There's your predicted pit stop strategy, ladies and gentlemen. This stream and this race has gone bonkers. We have a soft, medium, or soft, medium strategy. So it's going to be a 2-stop nonetheless here, as MMA Slash has left the session. Mark C is out of this race. Ollie Flavel is out, and are we getting a mass retirement now? I believe we may be restarting the lobby. I'm not too sure. We have 4 cars who are out of this race, and MMA Slash has left, and I believe, yep, we are going to be getting a restart. No formation lap, of course. So MMA Slash will be restarting the race, and we will be going again. So that is what we will be doing here, ladies and gentlemen. So we do apologize for the delay, and we will be back with you very shortly. And we will have a new race lobby started up as soon as possible, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize, of course, for the delay. We will be having a race restart that is on the command of MMA Slash. Of course, there was no formation lap, so we will be getting underway shortly. And as I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be restarting the race. We are just getting the grid formed up, and then we'll be getting away again for a full 50% race. So we will be just getting started in just a few moments' time, ladies and gentlemen. So please do be patient, and we will be racing live here at France for round number 4 in the championship here at France. Round number 5 in the championship, I believe, actually. It's been a crazy race. Crazy race. Or no, round number 4. What am I saying? And I am just getting back with you live here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we are just setting up the custom grid order for the French Grand Prix, round number 4 of the F5 Championship here in the Premier Sim Gaming Leagues in the PlayStation Division. And we had a pretty interesting qualifying session. Of course, there was some rainfall, which of course ended it a little bit early. But nonetheless, we are going to be getting underway shortly. There was no formation lap, which is why we are in fact restarting this race. There are mixed emotions, I must say the least, amongst the drivers about whether he agrees with the decision. Of course, that does mean drivers will be on new tires, so they're going to be starting on brand new tires, and it looks like the grid is set up as some drivers are starting to ready up, so we should be ready to go here in this race. And here we go, MMA / directing the drivers to ready up, and we are ready to get underway here, ladies and gentlemen, for the second restart of this French Grand Prix. And all the drivers ready up, and we can get underway here. So it's the French Grand Prix. It's round number 5. It's the PlayStation Division, and it's Premier Sim Gaming Leagues getting ready for the start of this race. Let's get ready and set for action. My name is IRSOX. I'm going to be commentating all of the action here for you today as we are just waiting for us to load into the lobby, and then we will begin the formation lap. I'll go over the grid order for you, ladies and gentlemen. I can do it this time, and we can get on to the start. Of course, some drivers definitely looking for some better results on the start, as of course XL Gary crashing out of the beginning of the race. And Brandon Glover, a driver who found himself all the way at the bottom of the grid order after the end of the first lap. We'll see if there's a reversal of fortunes. Let's get set for action. It is about to be the start of the race. Let's see what the drivers have in store for us today now that they can have their formation lap. And it is still sunny skies, of course, here at France, the birthplace of motorsport, ready to host round number 4 of the F5 Championship. And there are all the drivers on the side there, loading up, getting ready. And we will begin the formation lap of the French Grand Prix. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're enjoying it even more and you want to share with your friends, of course, share it on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you find that you can share it. And we are just about to get ready. Let's get set. 20 seconds till session start time now. And thankfully, I can go over the grid order for you here, ladies and gentlemen, as we get set for that singular red light that normally comes on to begin the formation lap. And there is that single red light. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Formation lap is underway here at France. Let's get set. VER Jules is back on pole position with Lewis in second position, Devin in third, MMA / in fourth position with Dertamo in fifth, XL Gary in sixth, followed by Mark C in 7th position. JT Giletto in 8th position, followed by VER Mike K in 9th position. Brandon Glover will round off the top 10. And Matt Tebos in 11th position with Spaghetti Chips in 12th. Ollie Flavel in 13th position. Tim Wentic starting 14th position. Captain Cocky will start 15th with Plevs in 16th. And QBR Cortez down in 17th position. So that is the starting grid order. Let's bring up the details on the tires. It is an entire top 10 starting soft tire runners. Down into 11th position, we have two mediums, 1 soft, and 4 hard tire runners. So very interesting mix of strategies down the rest of the grid order, but the top 10 have all started on the soft compound tire in qualifying. Of course, the advantage of this restart is those tires will be new. This strategy changes a little bit. Drivers now do not have to worry about pitting so early in this race. They can go a little bit longer. The race will just be a little bit faster, and it's going to be very exciting nonetheless. It is 27 laps here around this circuit, And there's been a DSQ on the formation lap. Mark C and JT Gilletto must have hit each other. And they are going to be off this formation lap. Their tires are going to close down a little bit in heat. And that is not what they would have liked to have had. JT Gilletto and Mark C collision on the formation lap. And that is, I believe, the first collision we've seen this season on the formation lap. Nonetheless, the grid is starting to form up now. And we will get ready for the start of the French Grand Prix. There is Jules in the distance. Lewis alongside. Devin in third. And the Renault of MMA Slash getting ready for the start. We're just waiting as the grid has finally ordered up. And we're just waiting for those 5 red lights to come on in. It's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And the lights are out, and away we go, and it's the French Grand Prix, and this time looks like Jules gets a little bit of a better start, but Lewis once again looks to jump him, coming into turn 1, and he does so. Lewis takes back the lead again. Jules has another bad start. Now it is Devin in third position, Dertamo in 4th position behind him, as we ride on board of the Red Bull right there. Big lockups from Lewis there at the top there, and he is actually ghosted on track. I'm not too sure what's going on with him. Maybe he has a disconnect. Nonetheless, he's back and ready on track, and it has been a much better start for XL Gary. He is 5th on the grid, but right now under pressure from Mike K, who's alongside him, now behind him here, as he's going to come alongside him, coming towards the outside lane, and though he is about to keep the position, I believe, and yes, XL Gary stays in 5th position. There is Jules riding behind Lewis now. Is he trying to find a way to get past Lewis very early on in this race? Everybody on very new soft tires, maximum grip, maximum traction, and of course maximum slipstream with all of that combined. We'll see if anybody can make a pass early on. And look at this, Mike K and VER Jules, they're going side by side. A classic Ferrari Mercedes duo already here in the beginning of this race, and VER Mike K trying to squeeze him, and now Dertamo has trouble, and now XO Gary will take control though, as Dertamo has a problem, and now Brendan Glover might get involved as well with the Red Bull driver going side by side with him. Now on the inside, a big dive, and he almost hits the Ferrari. Brendan Glover, I think, is just going to slot back behind the Red Bull, but Dertamo has had problems, and now he's under pressure, both from Brandon Glover and from Tim Wentick, and now it looks like Dertamo might lose a couple positions here. He's going side by side of the racing point. Contact between the two drivers. Goes off track is Tim Wentick. He comes back on track and gets back ahead of Dertamo. What a crazy couple of laps here. Side by side action right now. Brendan Glover and JT Gilletto. JT Gilletto now on the inside lane, coming in on Brendan Glover on the inside. Still he is, and he gets back ahead of him. And now MMA Slash, who has had a horrid start in this race behind Brendan Glover, is in the slipstream now of the Williams driver. He moves to the outside lane coming into this chicane. He might get the move done and dusted on the outside. Now the inside, the switchback, of course, of the chicane. And no, he actually loses that position battle, and now he's got to deal with Matt Tebos in the McLaren. A lot of 3-wide battles. MMA Slash and Brendan Glover going side by side through that flat right-hand turn, but it works out to perfection for MMA Slash. He gets ahead of Brandon Glover, who makes a dive on the inside, but it doesn't quite work out for him. Some crazy battling in only the second lap of this race, and there is some major mayhem going on here in France as Lewis continues to lead this French Grand Prix. Jules in 2nd position, Devin in 3rd, 4th for VER Mike K, XL Gary in 5th position. Lewis has set the fastest lap of the race at 131.4 with Tim Wentick in 6th position. Dertamo down to 7th, under pressure from JT Gilletto, who has a little bit of a snap of the rear from the back. Looks like the car is not reacting too well to some of that dirty air coming off of the Red Bull there. As he flies into the turn, you can really see that JT Gilletto really struggling behind Dirtamo, and we already have our first penalty. It's 3 seconds, and it's XL Gary who picks it up. Multiple warnings on track, of course. That is for corner cutting and track extension. So he's going to want to keep it within the track limits for the rest of this race. He doesn't want to pick up too many penalties. France is not necessarily the biggest penalty track, so he is not going to want to be one of the drivers picking up a lot of penalties here, because that could drop him well down the order of the grid. Dirtamo is trying to breathe a little bit here after those crazy first couple of laps, and now we have a little bit of a battle down here. It's Matt Tebos going side by side of Ollie Flavel. Ollie Flavel with the inside line, coming into that flat right-hander, still side by side of the McLaren, now gets ahead of him. Can Matt Tebos make the switch back? No, Flavel gets amazing traction out of the turn there, but now Matt Tebos looking on the inside. But Flavel gets the position, and he is up into 11th position behind his teammate Brendan Glover, who is still chasing down MMA Slash right behind JT Gilletto. Dirtamo is now trying to catch up to Tim Wentic, down in 6th position. Tim Wentic, he's going to want to make up a few positions as he's a little bit further behind his teammate, who is up to 2nd position. Devin, though, is putting on the pressure in that black, white, and red Haas. MMA Slash picks up his first penalty. Brendan Glover picks up his first penalty as well. So the 3-second time penalties are starting to come on. Which drivers are going to be the ones picking up the most in this race? We'll have to wait and see. And the engines are roaring here in France. Lap 4 of 27. No safety car in the beginning of this race. And Lewis currently leads it ahead of Jules, Devin in 3rd, 4th for Mike Kay, XL Gary in 5th. And we have a bit of a pass down the field, or actually maybe a bit of an incident down the field, as Captain Cocky loses a position to Cortez. Both of the Alfa Romeos up in the 15th and 14th respectively. But now can Captain Cocky make a counteroffensive? Plevs is a little bit further back. Trying to find the closest battle at the moment. Looks to be Dirtamo on Tim Wentic, though he still just can't get just quite enough on Tim Wentic. Tim Wentic does have the Ferrari of XL Gary ahead of him to help him with a slipstream to keep him ahead of Dirtamo. Once he exits that window, Tim Wentic is going to be in a world of trouble if he has to battle with Dirtamo. Dirtamo going to be very fierce in this race, I imagine, after losing a couple of places at the start. Not the best couple of corners for him in the 3rd sector. Cost him a lot of places. There's a big lockup and some dust flying in the air from somebody. I'm not too sure who that was. JT Gilletto. The gap is very, very close according to the side area over there. About 0.3 of a second to Dirtamo, but they're pretty much all very close. Dirtamo, Tim Wentic, XL Gary, JT Gilletto, MMA Slash still very much in the mix. So is Brandon Glover. Ollie Flavel has really started to drop back a little bit, and now Matt Tebos may be able to put on the charge on him, as 1.8 seconds now is that gap. And still no passes, no lunges into the chicane. Thank you everybody who's joining us live. This is F5 action here in France for round number 4 of the championship. Lewis is your leader in this French Grand Prix. Jules in 2nd position. Devin in 3rd. Mike Kay in 4th. XL Gary currently rounding off the top 5. A bit of a 3-way battle going on right now as Dirtamo looks to make a move on the inside line of Tim Wentic, but he cannot make the move just yet. And as he rides through the 3rd sector, looking for an avenue to get ahead of the Racing Point driver who currently follows XL Gary, trying to put himself into the top 5. We'll see if he can do it. Tim Wentic back on the DRS, but so does Tim Wentic have some DRS. XL Gary actually in a bit of trouble as he's only 1.7 seconds back, and that means he's not really in some slipstream range. That might allow Tim Wentic come the next couple of laps to make an offensive on XL Gary and find himself attacking him for 5th position in this race. Unless, of course, Mike Kay and XL Gary, Mike Kay have to make a mistake. XL Gary going to have to make some major pace up here in the early parts of this race to get back into some slipstream range of the Mercedes driver. VR Mike Kay in the slipstream of Devin. You can see coming through the chicane, Devin very close to VER Jules. Jules has not been able to really make up any sort of particular time on Lewis. It's really been a consistent half a second slower than him, and he really hasn't been able to get any kind of slipstream. The DRS hasn't been helping him. He just hasn't made a pass attempt in this race. Now, whether or not that's a strategic maneuver or not, or he's just simply not having the pace, we don't simply know at the moment. But nonetheless, this race is just moving right along here. As we move towards the later stages of this race, you will start to see some of those soft tire runners probably around lap, well, here we go. Actually, here's our first driver who's making a pit stop, and that's XL Gary. Tim Wentick also follows him in. Oh, I thought Tim Wentick did follow him in. No, actually, it was Brandon Glover who follows him in. So a pit stop for the drivers here, their first pit stop, and it is the hard compound tire going on for XL Gary. So is this an attempt at a one-stop or a very, very long stint and still a two-stop? Because again, the tire degradation is very harsh on this track. So I don't expect they're going to be able to make it till the end on this race. 20 laps on the hards will be a stretch, but we'll see if they can get it done. Nonetheless, Lewis currently does lead this race. Jules stays in second position. Devin really putting the pressure on Jules. Jules is really trying to needs to find a way to pass to Lewis. He is closer to Lewis than ever before, though, this time. It is now about 0.3 of a second. And gaining and gaining and gaining on him. Can he find a way past the AlphaTauri driver who found himself in the lead of the race once before here in Australia? This time, though, he is without a lot of walls around him to ruin his race. Can Lewis pick up the victory here? Can Jules catch up and make the pass? And here comes the pit stop, so drivers are starting to react, and Lewis has picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. A detrimental penalty added on to Lewis. Devin is going to take the lead of this French Grand Prix, but Lewis cannot afford to pick up penalties like that, because now the next pit stop, if he makes it, is going to be a 5-second added on, or he's going to have 5 seconds added on till the end of his race. Nonetheless, that is not what he would like to have occurred here in this race. A 5-second penalty for Lewis. And it's another costly mistake. We'll see if that affects his race here today. Can he continue to win it? Or is that 5-second penalty going to come back to haunt him? He puts on the hard compound tire. We expect a lot of drivers to do that. There are still some drivers running right now in this race. Of course, they started on the hard compound tires. So really what we want to know here is how long do those tires last? We're going to see it because these tires, these drivers on the hard tires who started the race on these hard tires, they're really going to be the test buddies here. We're going to see how long these tires last, how competitive they are. They're currently on lap number 7. I'm sure they're far away from a pit stop. If they don't last 20 laps, then some of these hard tire runners, they're going to have to make another pit stop again. But I suspect most drivers are going to elect to do the hard tire strategy anyway, so it's just a matter of when did you pit? Is that going to affect your race? Lewis is battling right now with Brandon Glover. Lewis just gets ahead of Brandon. But this is not what you need to be dealing with right now. Lewis cannot afford to be battling with people as he looks to get ahead of the people currently making pit stops. They're all coming out. They're all coming out on hard tires. So it's a collective hard tire strategy. And that leads me to believe that maybe it can make it till the end. We're going to see probably 20 lap olds. Now, where does Lewis come out in this fray? He comes 12th in this session. And he goes behind some drivers and ahead of some drivers. So it was a bit of a mixed bag for Lewis. But of course, he does have 5 seconds weighing in on him. And that could detrimentally affect his race if, as you can see now, it stays rather clear with penalties because not a lot of drivers have picked up penalties so far in this race. as I mentioned, it's not super easy to catch penalties, and we have a problem for somebody. Is that a McLaren? Not too sure who that is. And there's a safety car. So a safety car has been deployed. It's Tim Wentic. Tim Wentic's out of the race. Tim Wentic has crashed out of this race. So it was a racing point. I was trying to find who it was. I should have looked on the side there. Tim Wentic has crashed. And he is out of this race. And that is very surprising. Tim Wentic, not too sure what happened there. But a very odd part of the track to have an accident, so I have to suspect there may have been some driver contact. I'm going to go into the Discord, of course, and see if we can pick up on anything. If we get any speech from anybody. But very, very interesting that we see some pit stops now start to come in. Those hard tire runners have pitted, and they put on the hards again? Now, I gotta be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm assuming that now, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless it was the rest of the soft tire runners. There's some people, it looks like they pitted back on the hards. They must have been on the medium tires. There were a few medium tire runners in this race. Of course, the leaders in this race are Spaghetti Chips, Cortez, and Jules. Jules is really the biggest benefactor of this whole situation because he's on 2 lap old hards. He doesn't have to make a pit stop again, as I expect that's the case with the hard tire runners. Jules in a really good position to possibly pick up the victory here, given, of course, he doesn't pick up any penalties and he keeps it rather clean. This has been great for Jules because Spaghetti Chips and Cortez, of course, do lead this race. Alfa Romeo 1-2 at the moment, but they have to make a pit stop soon. Of course, under a safety car, you're not going to be using up your tires as much, so that is also a thing that they will be happy about. A lot of upsides at the moment. So it has been an interesting third part of the race. We are under safety car conditions. Tim Wentic is out of this French Grand Prix, and we have no idea what happened. He looked to be all alone, so it looked like driver error, if anything, that caused him to be out of this race. But nonetheless, he is out. And not too sure what's necessarily going to happen here. And as we go under safety car conditions here, we'll go over the grid order as it currently stands. Spaghetti Chips leads this race. QVR Cortez in second. Jules in third. Fourth for Devin. VER Mike K in fifth position. XL Gary in sixth. Seventh for Ollie Flavel. Lewis in eighth position. Dertamo in ninth. Matt Tebos in 10th position. We just talked about Ollie Flavel, but it's Brendan Glover, his teammate, who sits in 11th position. MMA Slash in 12th. JT Giletto in 13th, 14th for Captain Cocky, 15th for Mark CP, and Plevs in 16th. There is no 17th place anymore. It used to be XL Gary in the previous race. Now it is Tim Wentic who finds himself out of this race. Goodness, I was like, I'm hearing birds, and it's like one of my wires on something, and I'm hearing this like bird going around. I was like, what's this crow noise in my ear? And nonetheless, we're start here. I thought some new SFX were added onto the F1 game, and somebody's engine is sputtering. Whose is it? I heard an engine sputter. It's Matt Tebos, so Matt Tebos is going to be getting less airtime now. Now, of course, if he's in a nice battle, we'll, of course, ride back on board of him. We're about to begin lap number 11 of 27, though. Let's get set for action here for the now third restart of the French Grand Prix. Spaghetti Chips warming up his tires. Cortez behind him, ever close to his teammate. Do not want to hit his teammate. He does not want to pick up any penalties. And that would cause a lot of tension, I'd imagine, in the teammate queue right here. Look at this Spaghetti Chips really waiting a long time, really backing up the grid order. He is not getting underway yet. And when is he going to do it? We're still waiting, still waiting. Here we go. Spaghetti Chips gets underway. Cortez getting underway as well. There's a lot of weaving right now. Still, tires are warming up. Jules is still warming up his tires. I still think he thought that they were under regular conditions here. Nonetheless, he's catching up to Cortez. XL Gary is losing a lot of positions on this restart. He gets knocked out by a Red Bull. There's a big spin, and that's Brendan Glover, and he has been spun completely around. XL Gary losing a ton of positions, and now he loses it to Matt Tebos down to 10th. XL Gary has not had a great restart. Brendan Glover is all the way down in last again. A restart has caused him to spin, and he is out, way out of competitive competition here in this race. The two Alfa Romeos keep first and second. VER Jules stays in third position, and Devin in fourth position. And there's another yellow flag, and that is JT Giletto. JT Giletto has now had problems as he had a spin somewhere. Not too sure what happened there, but he finds himself now in last. What a reversal of fortunes for so many drivers in this race. XL Gary down in 10th, MMA Slash down in 11th, Lewis down in 7th position, and almost making some contact with Flavel. A lot of lockups, and now Flavel, he almost lost the entire back end of that Williams. Gonna ride on board of Lewis because he's looking to make a challenge. Looks around the outside of the Williams driver here as he is going to make the move up into 6th position ahead of Flavel. Now Flavel going to be under pressure from Dirtamo, who finds himself in 8th position. But what a restart. Brandon Glover way back by about 4 seconds. JT Giletto back by about 2 seconds. Not too sure how that restart went so badly for everybody. Very, very interesting. Spaghetti Chips, nonetheless, is leading this race. Cortez finds himself still in 2nd position. So, VER Jules has not been able to catch up to these drivers despite being on much fresher, hard compound tires. Now, of course, we have to remember, the drivers in the lead here, Spaghetti Chips and Cortez, have not pitted yet. In fact, they're the only drivers that have not pitted yet. So this will not be their final finishing position unless something absolutely. Tebos now is going side by side of XL Gary, and XL Gary is going to get the position on Matt Tebos up into 9th position. MMA Slash now looking to make a capitalization on that particular battle, but he will stay behind in 11th for now. XL Gary, and now the DRS is enabled, so drivers can now reopen their flaps and they can get to some very crazy overtakes. Let's see if they can do it. Of course, all the drivers are very rather close to each other, so slipstream is going to be the main factor here in the battle for getting ahead of another driver. Look at getting very close to the back end of some of these cars. Drivers have to be careful not to pick up wing damage here at France, because wing damage is your worst nightmare here at France. And we are just about halfway through this race. Very long laps here at France. Not one of my particularly favorite tracks on the calendar, but nonetheless, here we are having a pretty nice battle. And somebody's engine is sputtering out. As you heard the the gear changes there. They were loud, loud, loud. And Jules has started to catch up to Cortez now. He does have that tire advantage by about half of what Spaghetti Chips and Cortez has. So now we might be seeing a move rather soon. And now look at that. Cortez goes into the pit lane. And he is pitted on lap 13 of this race. So is that the length of these tires? Do they only go 13 laps? 14 laps still for Spaghetti Chips. We'll see how long he goes into this race. I'm just going to be shocked if we see another round of pit stops. It's getting a little bit later into the race. There's not a lot of laps left to go if you actually think about it. I'd be really shocked if we see another round of pit stops from anybody. I think they're just going to have to tough it out. We're going to see if Spaghetti Chips does react. You can see he's really starting to struggle. So lap 15 looks like maybe the very edge of the limit of these tires. But is it enough? Given with the safety car, maybe some drivers can find themselves in a bit of a better position here. We'll have to wait and see. But it is not looking good for drivers like Spaghetti Chips, who find himself under an enormous amount of pressure from Jules, as Jules is making a move around the outside, making contact to Jules. Jules has to slot back behind, and it is getting dicey between Spaghetti Chips and Jules. And if you're Jules, you might be a little frustrated with this kind of battling. You know Spaghetti Chips does not have the pace, but Spaghetti Chips not being too nice of him, and he does not make a pit stop yet. Very surprising from Spaghetti Chips not to react to the pit stop from his teammate, who finds himself last on the mediums, mind you. So much faster tire than the rest of the grid, but 12 seconds back. So he might be thinking to himself, well, I'm going to be really far down the grid when I make my pit stop. I might as well stay out as long as I can. But Jules is not going to be too happy with bumps like that from Spaghetti Chips, given that he knows the pace right now of that Alfa Romeo. Mark C has a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Now back on the DRS power. This surely should be an easy pass for Jules. He's going to move to the outside lane. We'll see how much he commits. Spaghetti Chips makes contact with Jules. You could see there was a bit of a mix from the rear there from Jules, and that could have been very disastrous for Jules's race. And we would have, if we could hear the radio messages from some of these drivers, I'm sure we could hear some very offensive language coming down. That could have been a disastrous end to Jules's race. Spaghetti Chips now moves down to second position. He's got Devin, who has been really still always in this battle from the very beginning, and he might find himself passing Spaghetti Chips, maybe even on the start-finish line. Big lockup from Spaghetti Chips, who still stays out in this race. And even with DRS, Devin making quick work of the Alfa Romeo driver, who will slot down into third position now. He's really starting to lose a lot of places. He's not gaining any time. It's good to make the pit stop now, if anything. I'm really not... I don't recommend this strategy. I don't know why drivers do it. I think that they get caught up in, oh, I'm in third place. It's great. But you're going to be last when you make your pit stop, and you're going to be even more last, given that now Cortez is catching up. So Spaghetti Chips, unless he's thinking to go onto the softs at the end of the race, which I'm assuming is his strategy, but are the softs even enough with the amount of time you have to make up enough to make up any decent positions? And oh, and now look at that, Mike K's had a spin. He was trying to make a pass on Spaghetti Chips. He now goes behind his teammate. There looked to be contact between the two drivers, and Mike K has had a spin, and he is all the way down in 13th position. I think some drivers are going to be very upset with Spaghetti Chips after this race, and I wouldn't blame them. If you're a driver and you're on those tires, look at those tires. They are absolutely shot. and he stays out. So the tires look to be shot, and the pace shows it. And yet he stays out in this race. A strategy call which makes no sense. He's going to be in last, and he's going to be even further back in last as he continues to stay out and lose time to other cars. Now it's 10, about under 11 seconds now. And VER Mike K, who was looking to pick up a monster amount of points. If we go back to the the driver standings here in F5, let me just pull them up for you, ladies and gentlemen. If we go to the driver standings, Mike K currently finds himself in the lead of the championship, but he may not have that lead after the end of this. MMA Slash, meanwhile, is not going to score a lot of points, so that is an upside. But Dirtamo in 4th position. Could he see himself pole vaulted into the lead of the championship after all this is said and done? Spaghetti Chips still in 3rd position. Now he has Dirtamo behind him. 9-lap old hards. He's trying to find a way past Spaghetti Chips, who surely needs to make a pit stop as soon as possible. I understand now the strategy, soft tires till the end, but is this the right call? He stays out, moves past the pit lane. Spaghetti Chips will have DRS, but Dirtamo should be able to make the pass. Just look at the problems he has putting back on the power. And Dirtamo, can he make a pass on the inside coming in the turn 1? He's going to look at it, but decide against it. Spaghetti Chips does not have any penalties, so that is one nice part of his race, if anything at the moment. But there's going to be some harsh words after this race, I imagine. A driver who has not yet made a pit stop in this race on very old tires, may be racing a little bit harder than he should be. Spaghetti Chips gets passed by Dirtamo. Now comes Lewis. Lewis, just look how much time he's making up. Oh my goodness. And he really had to brake hard on that particular lap. And now look at this. XO Gary going side by side of MMA Slash, and MMA Slash on the outside. XO Gary making the move on the inside. He's going to get the move done. Mike K making a pass on his teammate on the inside, and it is a clean pass. Ooh, look at this. Some teammate battling going on right now, but Mark nonetheless is going to stay behind Mike K. A little bit of teammate battling going on. The last thing you want in this particular race. Captain Cocky and Plebs on the 9-lap old mediums. They're going to be near the end of their lifespan. Spaghetti Chip stays out. Coming on to lap number 19 on these tires, and he's going side by side of Lewis, and he loses the position. Now down to 5th, and Spaghetti Chips is really just throwing away this race, in my opinion. Now he's going to have Ollie Flavel behind him, probably drop down to 6th. And oh, there's another spin, and it's Plebs. And Plebs was going side by side through the chicane, and it just didn't work out for him. And he finds himself in 15th. The medium tire strategy has not worked out for him. Spaghetti Chips moves down to 16th. Now he's got XL Gary side by side of him. He's going to battle side by side and can do nothing. Down to 7th now. Lewis has made a pass, meanwhile, on Dirtamo. And Dirtamo, look at this. Is Dirtamo having problems? He's ghosted, it looks like, but still some contact being made. Dirtamo moving down to 5th as Dirtamo had a disconnect. He has had a disconnect. Unbelievable here. Dirtamo down positions. MMA Slash moving up now. And this is unbelievable scenes here in this French Grand Prix. The drama as now his teammate Captain Cocky passes him. Mike K moves back into the points. Unbelievable scenes here. Spaghetti Chips finally makes a pit stop. And I'm sure it's going to be the softs till the end. But he'll find himself in last. Most likely. Cortez, here comes the pit stop onto the soft compound tire. Cortez going to pass him in the pit lane, and Spaghetti Chips will come out. Now, the real question is the gap here. What's the gap after coming out of the pit lane? It is... We're still waiting. Looks like 8 seconds is the gap. So 8 seconds is the gap. He still has to make up a lot of time, though, to really get into the pack of the drivers that are currently battling. We'll see if that works out for him or if that was a bit of a dud strategy from Spaghetti Chips. Cortez is not too far ahead of him, though. Mike K makes a pass on Captain Cocky. Mike K moving up some positions now. Dirtamo all the way down to 13th. This has been a disastrous end to his race. A disconnect from him. And I'm always the one who has to make the invites. I'm asking the invite, Dirtamo. So we'll get him in here. And oh my goodness. I cannot do that. There is a problem with PlayStation Network. I cannot connect. Oh my goodness, that was almost a disaster. Let's see if I can get Dirtamo back in here, and let's do apologize for this, ladies and gentlemen. And there's Dirtamo. We'll invite him into the game, and we can get him back into this race. We're back on the live stream. Devin still leads this race ahead of Jules. They're both now on relatively the same tire. Lewis in third position. Ollie Flavel sitting in fourth. Mike K in seventh position. Captain Cocky finding himself in eighth. Ninth for Mark C. JT Giletto down in 10th position, the final point scoring position. Now Dirtamo is in last. He's on the soft tires. We just got him back into the race, and it's going to be a very monumental task to make any kind of time on anybody. Spaghetti Chips, meanwhile, has not made up a lot of time on his teammate. And again, like I said, I really think this was the poor strategy choice from Spaghetti Chips. This is not going to amount to too much for him in this race. I'm surprised he stayed out as long as he did. And I'm not really I don't have any gaps on my screen, which is great. The game continuing to give me excellent stats, or a lack thereof in this case. I'm going to try to just see if I can catch an inkling of any battles going on. And here we go. The updates now come in. And Jules finds himself 6/10 back from Devin. Lewis is back up in the third position. Could you imagine Lewis being this far back up the grid? I don't think you did. But here we are. But now we're going to start to see those hard tires reach the end of their lifetime. As we remember, lap 20 is how far Spaghetti Chips went on his tires, and those tires looked absolutely shot at the end of it. But nonetheless, here we are. And VER Jules finding himself in second. He's trying to make up some positions. And that position is first place. But he doesn't really have the pace. Again, those hard tires, everybody's on that same condition, really, of the hard tire. Devin a little bit of a lap older, but that's not saying much. XL Gary's picked up another 3-second time penalty. Most of the grid now with penalties. Lewis has penalties. He's probably going to drop back a little bit. We're actually going to, let's pick up the detail there. How many penalties? Still 5 seconds, so it's that 5-second penalty that is coming to haunt Lewis at the end of this race, because he picked that up earlier. And we are on lap number 24 of this race, so just 4 more laps to go in this French Grand Prix. We're reaching near the end here, and no safety cars, I imagine, will be coming out towards the end of this race. Mark C picks up another penalty to add on to his time. Spaghetti Chips now really starting to catch up, but still about 4 seconds back to his teammate QBR Cortez. Is he going to find himself in last here and dub what is pretty much a very poor strategy choice from Spaghetti Chips? But then again, Cortez there really hasn't made up any progress on. Ooh, that's JT Giletto, who is disconnected from this race. And JT Giletto has found himself ghosting on track, and now Spaghetti Chips may finally find a place for himself. Up one from last. Lap 24 of 27 in this race. There's Devin in the lead. And now Lewis putting the pressure on Jules. Now again, maybe it's driver etiquette on my part, but in my times of racing, if you had a penalty, you're really not supposed to be racing here. We'll see if Lewis puts a major challenge on VR Jules. I don't suspect he's going to, but if he does, just keep it clean. You do not want to have a penalty-driven driver make more contact of a driver. We'll see what happens here. And we just want to have top 3 ERS right now on there, so I'll bring that up for everybody. So at the moment, Devin has 59% of his ERS. Jules has only 27%, and Lewis 35%, and using plenty of it. And Jules also using his overtake as much as possible, but he's about to run out, and I think Lewis might be able to make a pass. And an interesting comment, why can't Devin DNF? I don't know. I don't know why Devin can't DNF. That's a question for you. But nonetheless, we're going to ride on board at the top 3 till the end of this race. This really is the battle right now going on right here. Devin, Lewis, and the VER Jules. As look at this, Lewis is really starting to catch up on Jules now. He's got a lot more, well actually now about equal DRS in the tank. But Devin really has all to play with. He can use as much as he wants, and he's not going to have too much of a problem making a defense on any of the drivers behind him. And back on the DRS. No ERS play of, and using a bit of overtake is Lewis actually. So Lewis being a bit of the aggressor right now. He has lost a little bit of ERS in that battle with Lewis. But again, Jules and Lewis pretty much equal on ERS. Devin with a lot more in the tank. I really like that helmet that Devin's flashing right there in the race. As we get an onboard aerial shot here from the helicopter view of this track right here. It ain't no Magna-Cores, I'll tell you that much. And here comes Devin into the chicane. Jules behind him. There is one more lap after this one, and I don't suspect we'll be seeing a pass on any of these particular laps. Very low on ERS is Jules. Lewis also extremely low on ERS. Really not anything to play with here. They're going to have to rely on DRS alone. Plevs has been passed by Cortez, who moves up into 12th. And a battle right now for 10th position in this race. Brandon Glover looking to pick up the final point scoring position in this race. Side by side with Matt Tebos. Matt Tebos has the inside line. Brandon Glover has the outside line. Still having the line. Now the inside. And he's about to get the position. Yes, he gets enough traction. And Brandon Glover, what a move up into 10th. He still has some penalties barring, so we'll see what happens there. Mike K moves up into 6th ahead of XL Gary. It is the final lap, though, of this French Grand Prix. It is Devin, VER, and Jules. Oli Flavel, though, might find himself up into 3rd position if he can stay within 5 seconds of Lewis. If not, Lewis will finally pick up a podium that he thinks he may deserve after what has been a very disappointing Australian Grand Prix for him, which he was in the top 3 in that particular occasion. Matt Tebow moves back up at the 10th position and gets back that final point scoring position in this race. 4.6 seconds the gap. 4.8 seconds the gap now. He has to pick it up if he wants it. Lewis using all his ERS. 5% on him. Lost a little bit of time. Now coming through the turns here. Jules does not have anything to play with either. It's looking to be Devin, though. Devin used up pretty much all of his ERS to gain just a little bit of time. Ollie Flavel, 4.5 seconds the gap now. Half a second between them if he wants to get up into third position, and I'm sure he thinks he knows that. And now it's really going to be great, though, for Devin, who's going to win the French Grand Prix here in the Haas. Jules will finish in second, and now here comes Lewis across the line, and it is going to be Ollie Flavel who is going to take third position in this race. And what a battle at the end there. Ollie Flavel knocks Lewis out of the top three. He'll be very, very happy to pick up that final podium position. Jules in third, but Devin wins the French Grand Prix. What a race. Battles, drama, contact, it had everything there. There is Devin, who has won this race. Jules finishes in second. Reserve driver who's always very excited to be on the grid here. And Ollie Flavel finds himself on the podium after penalties, and Lewis will be kicking himself to have picked up that speeding in the pit lane penalty, the only penalty he picked up all race. And there is the final grid order. Devin in first, second for Jules, third for Ollie Flavel, Lewis in fourth, VER Mike K in fifth. A great recovery for him. Sixth for Mark CP. Seventh for XL Gary MMA Slash, and eighth, ninth for Captain Cocky. And Spaghetti Chips does finish in the top 10 after a lot of disconnects near the end there. QVR Cortez in 11th position, 12 for Plevs. Matt Tebos in 13th, Brandon Glover in 14th, JT Giletto in 15th, and Dirtamo and Tim Wentic failed to finish the race. Fastest lap going to Spaghetti Chips, 130.1, as you'd expect on those soft tires near the end of the race. Little fuel on those cars. So that was the race. And let's see if we can get a little bit of the drivers here to come in and do a bit of an interview. Let me just make sure. And, ooh, Monaco. No, thank you. We're gonna leave that one. Ooh, ugly. And let's bring up the Haas. And we'll invite some drivers into the party. And that driver can't. So Devin, sorry, Devin, you're not getting a. You're not getting a party interview because of your settings, so that is unfortunate. Let's get Jules in here if he wants to be in here. We'll invite Jules. And we'll get Ollie Flavel in here. If not, we'll just end the stream. If nobody wants to join. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable scenes in that race. And that was a hard one to call. Well, we will start the podium interviews of you all. Oh, well, Jules, you joined in too, so good. We get some podium interviews. Well, actually, we'll start with you, Flavel, because you finished on the podium after a penalty from Lewis. That was a speeding in the pit lane penalty he picked up early in the race as only one. Talk us through what was a very interesting race, to say the least.
Well, I've never been so excited to see a safety car my whole life. I've got to say that was very lucky. I mean, I was hoping for low points, maybe P8, but P3 from P13, I've got to be happy with that one. I was in the party with Lewis and I heard Lewis got a speeding penalty and I was like, got to call him a bottle, so taking the piss out of him for a little bit. And then just the rest of the time, like Lewis was behind me in the safety car and I didn't want to lose time myself and I didn't want to lose track of the DRS because I was aware that I'm pretty good on not getting any penalties. I paid dividends at the end, so I was just trying to drive my own race and trying to hold off all the pressure coming from all my mates in the party. And from Lewis saying, don't bottle, don't get a penalty. So towards the end, I was hoping to just keep Gary out of arm's reach. From behind, he was pushing me along quite well. But I was just trying to survive and stay within 5 seconds. So very happy with this race, and I'm happy I got podium for Lewis. So that's one for the lads.
Yeah, very good. Of course, AlphaTauri really struggling in the Constructors' Championship this season. In fact, your first point scored last round. Definitely will be happy to get up that podium for the AlphaTauri boys after that disappointment in Australia. Joez, you finally get on the podium.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it was right. That's for sure. But yeah, I couldn't match Devin today. Yes, I lost a little bit of energy behind Cortez and the Alphas. So yeah, that was where I lost it a bit. And then Devin had 70% ERS, I think, something like that. So yeah, I couldn't match his pace, but yeah, well deserved for him. Credits. He drove a mighty race there today, and yeah, pole position and P2. I'm quite happy with that one, to be honest. But, yeah,
it was a very good race for sure, for sure. And now we do actually have Devin in the party. Changed some sort of settings, and he's in here now. Devin, you were kind of in the shadows that entire race. You pick up the lead of the race near the end. Talk us through your French Grand Prix as you picked up the victory here today.
Yeah, because I started third. I'm quite happy with that, of course. And then in the first laps, I was pacing myself. I was saving some ERS and saving some tires. So I have the pace, and my tires were not going dead. So and then from the pit stop, I just paced myself for going a lap longer than the guys in front. And then yeah, my pace was really good. So. I can pass Gilles around lap 20 or something, I don't know, but yeah. Yes, then I can pass, and then I have and then I had the pace to go out in front.
Yeah, he was fastest on track, so well deserved.
Yeah.
It was a great race for sure. Congratulations, all top three of you. It was a very exciting race to watch here in the commentators booth. And, of course, everybody who joined us live, thank you so much for joining us. We had almost 14 of you at one point, so thank you, everybody who joined in on the F5 stream here today. It is the Premier Sim Gaming League's PlayStation division here in Formula 5. Thank you so much for joining everybody here, and we will see you next week for the middle of the championship, and it is going to be a very exciting race nonetheless. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been ISOX signing out once more. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a wonderful night.